Hello and welcome to Express Sports Podcast. You're listening to Game Time. The normal service of Game Time resumes after I don't know how many months, because we've had one live major event after another since I think June or July this year, and for a big change, there's not much happening apart from Chess Olympiad this weekend. So Olympics खत्म हो गया, Olympics fever शायद अब तक खत्म नहीं हुआ है. So Amit is here with us today. एक resurrection kind of act Amit ने create किया है खुद के लिए after not being with us last week. He's here. Our third musketeer, Vinayak, has gone missing this time. So this episode is in the memory of Vinayak Mohanarangan. Amit, how was your last weekend? Where were you? Why weren't you with us?
I don't remember. My life has been so hectic of late. I have no idea what I was doing last week. But I remember that I was maybe too busy to not join you guys.
Yeah, clearly. I mean, life's so hectic, you can't remember. We take that excuse, and I'm sure there's nothing else for you not able to recall where were you last weekend.
My proclivities aside, I think the full party animal proclivities aside, I think we should talk about sport a little bit.
We shall move on to sport very directly now, since Amit has ordered us. हमने कहा starting में कि Olympic fever अब तक खत्म नहीं हुआ है, because in all the talks post-Olympics, and then of course the Paralympics were happening, so we didn't really get time to kind of focus on one major talking point from the Paris Olympics from India's point of view, and that is Neeraj Chopra. Of course, he won the silver medal. That's not something we're going to discuss, but just what happens to Neeraj now, because if you guys can recall, uska jab medal aa gaya, he didn't defend the gold medal. That was won by Nadeem Arshad from Pakistan. But what really captured our attention, I'm sure it captured many of yours attention as well, is the way he opened up about the struggles in his game because of the groin injury. And we thought it's a good time to kind of look back at what he said, kind of again relook at the performances he's had since the Paris Olympics, and also try and understand what is in store for him next. We've spoken to his physio Ishan Marwaha, who's given a lot of perspective on where he is in terms of fitness right now. But Amit, first impressions about, Neeraj post-Paris and even during Paris, because we have not kind of reflected on Neeraj as much as we should have, perhaps.
Yeah, I think, Mihir, one of the things that has happened is that I think he's kind of a victim of his own success, and success at a level where India has not had success. Like, we've not seen an athlete who is so consistent at the top level. So every time he steps on the field, we are always thinking podium places, golds, wins, national record break karega. I mean, we can see that his own views about something have evolved. That's the 90-meter mark. We've seen that he's initially, a couple of years back, maybe you would say that jab aana hai, aa jayega. I think going into this season, he was much more open about his chase for the elusive 90-meter. And he said that, I'm pretty sure that I'm certain that at the end of this season, I will have crossed the 90 maybe. And we've seen, as you mentioned in your pieces from Paris, and you also mentioned at the start of the podcast, heading into this year or heading right after Paris, we saw the frustration. We saw that, there are things that are kind of holding him back. And if those were not there, he would probably have crossed 90 by now. But obviously, that's the rest of the podcast ka topic. But Mihir, I wanted to understand this frustration that you spoke about. Because you spoke to him in Paris, because you were somebody who was right next to him, very close to when he had finished his Paris Olympics. Just talk to us about the sense that you got about Neeraj. What was going on through his mind? I mean, he's somebody now who's finished off, like who's succeeded a gold medal with a silver medal at the Olympics. But despite that, did he feel like content? Did he feel happy to you?
No, he didn't. And, rather than me kind of drawing my observations, so this question I also asked to Ishan Marwaha, his physio. Ishan has been with Neeraj for the last 7 years now, I think. And he was, of course, in Paris, as in a circle as it could get, right? It's Neeraj, his coach, Klaus Bartonietz, and Ishan Marwaha. Those are the OG 3 musketeers. And then comes Vinayak, Amit, and Mihir. But Ishan said that after the Paris Olympics, Neeraj was dull, quote unquote. That's the word he said. And I mean, थोड़ा सा हमें सुनने में weird लगता है, because here he was with a silver medal around his neck, एंड हम में ओलंपिक्स में मेडल्स नहीं मिलते हैं, आई थिंक इट्स नॉट अ सीक्रेट एनीमोर. तो अगर जो कोई सिल्वर जीत कर डल है तो दैट, लाइक यू एप्टली सेड, ही इज द विक्टिम ऑफ हिज ओन सक्सेस in a way. And then with Ishan we got kind of talking about why he felt dull, and that's where the story gets thoda sa tricky, because I mean we'll be talking for the next whatever minutes about the injury and the consequent technical flaws in Neeraj's style, his game. But at the same time, I think it's important not to lose perspective of the fact that in every tournament he's participated in the last 6 years, if my count is correct, even if we talk about the last 3 years, अगर जो हम देखें तो it would be around 20 tournaments, and in each of them he's finished either first or second, or first case third. So he's podiumed everywhere. So with that disclaimer, I think Amit, let's kind of talk about Neeraj and his problems, his struggles, and it starts with that groin injury, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think Mihir, एक चीज तो है कि Neeraj hasn't spoken about this maybe, but then see, I think javelin is a sport where everybody who competes in javelin seems to be more injured than others. I mean, I know that all athletes are usually competing with some sort of niggle, some sort of injury, something that is kind of keeping them away from performing at 100%. But then for javelin throwers, it just seems to be something that is a constant.
Normal.
Yeah. I think the best illustration of that was, you mentioned this also in one of the earlier podcasts, where Neeraj was sitting on stage after winning silver. And he's talking about his own injuries, and then he turns around and asks the other podium finishers, क्या आपको भी कोई injury है क्या? And at that time, I remember Arshad saying that उसको कोई injury नहीं था. But then he went back to Pakistan and then he opened up about his own injuries, how it had kind of hindered him competing, things like that. So that is one aspect of a javelin thrower's life, coping with injuries, because it is such a technical sport, because it requires your entire body to be kicked into motion, and it's basically a cascading effect, right? If you have a groin injury, then to make up for the functionality of that region, you probably have to overcompensate with something else. And then that something else leads to your body reacting in a certain way, in certain other way. Since you have spoken to Ishan and also Neeraj, I think Neeraj, Mihir, before we get to Ishan, I think Neeraj had broken it down really well in one of the pieces that you had written. Could you just talk about that technique aspect? Like, how does he kind of have to overcome that groin injury?
Right. So before we go to that, I think it's important to understand what exactly the injury is. So according to Ishan, it's a very, in layman's terms, he said the adductor muscles are attached to our pelvic bone.
Yeah.
And the strain is there in that attachment. So it's on the surface, it looks like a very not so major thing, but then constant strain jo us pe pad raha hai on that attachment on that part is what is hindering him from executing his full technique. Now, Ishan said that he had kind of suffered an injury in 2018 on the adductor, and the muscles had healed back then, but the strain on the attachment keeps on resurfacing. So, उस वजह से अब हो ये रहा है, like now we go back to what Neeraj had said. So, what's happening now is that in ideal world situation, he would want to run in faster. The movement of his right leg, he would like it to be quicker, so that उसका अगर जो right पैर ज़्यादा जल्दी आ रहा है तो his hips apparently would be able to move inside more quickly, and वो अगर जो उसका movement आता है, the strain on the groin is less. If that is less, he'll have more confidence of planting his left leg, that's his block leg, on the ground with a lot more confidence, and then put full pressure, full power in the throw. None of it is happening right now for him. His movement of the right leg isn't as fast as he wishes to be. Ishan said that because of that, his hips aren't turning inside as fast, which then puts strain on his groin, and वो जब होता है तो उसका left leg में slight bend होता है. So every time when we see Neeraj fall after a throw, it's not, मुझे लगता था कि it's his signature. It turns out, I asked Ishan that is it a sign that there is a technical flaw in that, and he said yes, if his technique was perfect, he wouldn't be falling on the ground. Right now what's happening is his block leg, when he plants his foot to stop his body from going forward, उसका leg bend हो जाता है, and वो bend होने में he falls, and जब वो गिरता है तब the body goes leftwards, and the javelin also travels towards the left, which is again not an ideal angle. Ishan said that the ideal angle should be, the trajectory of the javelin should be either center or towards the right, around 35 to 45 degrees towards the right. and Neeraj का भी left की तरफ जा रहा है. So that's another point which is hindering him because of the current injury that he's having.
Right. And what is remarkable about all of this is, despite all of these injuries, I think Mir, the one thing that he had also mentioned in his press conference later on was that the fact that this injury is there and it has not been surgically operated on yet is something that's almost like a phantom fear in his mind. So every time he goes into competition, he will not have any pain, he will not have the injury affecting him. But sometimes it is just that in his mind is telling him कि boss आज तू over exert करेगा, that injury will flare up. So that is something he's basically playing chess in his mind कि he doesn't know what the consequence of any throw will be, which is what kind of affects him. But what I was saying earlier was that despite all of this going on with his body, with his mind, he managed to kind of register 2 of his top 3 throws in his career at the Paris Olympics with, I think, 89.34 in the qualifying and 89.45, which won him the silver medal. I mean, it just speaks for where Neeraj is and what sort of a competitor he is. But Mihir, just wanted to understand from you, we understood what the injury is, how long it has been, how it is affecting him mentally and physically. But I mean, what comes next? Does he go through surgery or how does he get back to full fitness and take care of this clear thing that something has affected him for so many years now?
In a way, अभी थोड़ा सा chicken and egg kind of a situation है for Neeraj. So ideally, he would want that his technique is perfect. And there is no, I think it's not a secret anymore that one of the big reasons between him and the 90-meter mark is the technique. I mean, Neeraj is not a power thrower like, say, Arshad or the Germans. He relies more on flexibility and shoulder flexibility. He's working on is through his shoulder flexibility. So ideal world situation for his whole body to come together and for him to execute that 90 plus throw. He would want the technique to be perfect, but the technique can't get perfect because he's not able to practice throws as much as he can, during his sessions. And that isn't happening because of the injury. And injury hai because the technique isn't perfect. So you see the loop that he's living in right now. So the solution over here, they were planning that, once the season gets over, the season I think got over on this weekend after the Diamond League finals. So they were hoping to meet some surgeons, get some advice on how to proceed in terms of healing this injury, whether surgery would be required or whether there is some other process through which this can be addressed. Last time around, the doctors advised that, he should perhaps undergo surgery. But then the World Championships were too close. The Olympics were there, so they didn't take that risk. This time, he would have a clear window, at least for the rest of the year. And then again, for the first few months next year, until the athletics season begins later in 2025. So whether, he has that freedom in his mind to go for a surgery and get enough recovery time. So that's going to be one big question for him, Amit.
Right, absolutely. But I'm just trying to understand, in Neeraj and his physio's estimation, if he gets this fixed, how many meters more are we talking about? What is Neeraj Chopra's ceiling in a sense?
Shashank, Bhargava, producer, is just going on a roll right now. He is sending to me on a chat that Neeraj's ceiling would be 100, 120, 130, 140. अभी मुझे पता नहीं है सेंटीमीटर्स की बात कर रहे हैं कि मीटर्स की, but Shashank, he's saying kilometers. Wow. I don't know what Shashank's up to this afternoon when we are recording. But anyway, 140 किलोमीटर तो नहीं. He's hoping कि at least 3 से 4 meters add हो जाएंगे उसके throw में. That's what Neeraj is hoping for. And Ishan, his physio, also feels that, his body otherwise is in a perfect shape to add that much distance. So 3 to 4 meters in that would be, say, मान लो अभी is closing towards 89.5. अगर जो हम average मान के चले, you add 3 to 4 and that would mean that he'll be in the 92 to 93 bracket, which would be very good for him because it keeps him in contention for almost all major gold medals. We have to keep in mind that Arshad Nadeem is going to be a beast for the next cycle at least, and he'll be throwing big 90s. So for Neeraj to stay in contention, that will be essential. And the reason why they are confident now is, so Ishan said that, once the injury heals, and they'll be able to practice more throws, it will improve his confidence as well. So right now they said what's happening is, in the normal training session, say earlier, they used to have 2 to 3 throwing sessions in a week, and per session they used to have around 30 to 35 throws. at times even 40. Now that is reduced to 20 to 25 throws per session, and the session would be once, maybe twice a week. So the number of sessions have reduced and the number of throws have reduced too. And they're saying once the injury is healed, both will go up, and that would have a positive impact on the distance that he throws.
But Mihir, any parting thoughts on Mr. Chopra and I think what the future holds?
It'll be interesting, Amit, because the injury, when it flared up again, I mean, again, if we want to go back in time, so iski jo injury hai, it came back around last year, right? When just before the World Championship, and when he was in Bhubaneswar for the, I don't know, whatever that Athletics Federation of India plan was to call him in Bhubaneswar in June, in that humidity and everything, he felt that strain in his groin and he immediately stopped throwing. So all that was too close for him to kind of go for a surgery again. I have a feeling that because the calendar is a lot clearer for him right now, there is not much happening in terms of big events for the rest of the year and also first half of next year. It would give him a lot of mental peace to whatever the treatment is, to go for that, recover properly and come back better from what he's right now. And that itself, I think, is a great thought, right? I mean, the fact कि हमने starting में जो mention किया कि he's had his season best throws at a time when his body isn't supporting him at all kind of raises my expectations as to what can be done, what can be achieved if he is 100% fit, or if not 100%, then even 95, 99% fit. What do you think?
Yeah, I think, 90 meter is something that is almost like a bone stuck in his throat at this moment. Like he's desperately trying to get it out and get it out once and for all. Like he wants no part of this anymore. He does not want to be asked that question anymore. I mean, our obsession with the 90 meter might just evolve as soon as he hits it. Like people will start asking why he doesn't throw 90 more frequently, or people will start asking abhi aap wapas 90 kab fekoge. So I hope Neeraj is ready with those answers. Knowing Neeraj, he probably will be.
But Amit, have you noticed one thing इसमें? Sorry to butt in, but एक चीज अगर जो तूने notice किया रहेगा in the last couple of competitions, especially at the Diamond Leagues after the Olympics and even at the Olympics, Neeraj isn't that, calm-faced wala throw that he used to be. I mean, when he threw that distance 89.49, I think it was the farthest he had thrown all season in Lausanne, and it wasn't the roar. वो जो एक नीरज की roar की हम बात करते थे ना, where he knew that the javelin is traveling a distance. It wasn't that. He's looking a little angry, and that was a fight back. Neeraj was the kind of thrower, so first or second throw he used to seal the deal. Now is over here in Lausanne, he did it with his last throw. Different shades of Neeraj दिखने में आ रहे हैं हमें in terms of his mood and also the kind of throws and the timing of the throws that he's unleashing.
Yeah, which is true. I think it's one of those great pleasures of being a sports fan or a sports journalist, right? You get to see an athlete evolve through various stages. You get to see that inner battle that they are having, which we are kind of anyway seeing with Neeraj, considering it's a battle with his own body more than anything else at this moment. So yeah, I think that's all we have for today. This pod obviously hopes that Neeraj gets to 90 meters as soon as possible and then keeps breaching 90 meters with every throw of his. But well, till then, thank you for listening. We'll be back with another episode, and hopefully we'll be back with our third co-host, Nayak Mohanarangan. Till then, this is me, Amit Kamath, and Mihir Vasavda saying goodbye. Thank you for listening.
You were listening to Express Sports by the Indian Express. This week's show was edited and mixed by Suresh Pawar and produced by me, Shashank Bhargava. If you like the show, then do subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also recommend the show to someone you think will like it. Share it with a friend or someone in your family. It's the best way for people to get to know about us. You can also tweet us at Express Podcasts and write to us at podcasts@indianexpress.com.